Hey, Iburu, Iboya, Ibu, Che, everybody in Cyberland, your favorite Babalao, at least I hope so. Omodun, Odileke, coming at you with Inspirational Sunday. Hey, I think Inspirational Sunday is, I love it. I really do. I was doing my podcast episodes on Fridays and then Inspirational Sundays on Sunday, obviously. And I'm like, you know what? Because I come out of work on Friday and I can't knock out the podcast. I'm doing everything back to back. So I just got done with the podcast. So if you guys haven't had a chance to get into, it's called Buzzsprout. So Buzzsprout is the application that I use to post my podcast. But if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, man, it is definitely something to look at. Where I talk about a lot of different controversial things. But just in case it's something you guys are interested in, is all there. But hey, Buddha boy, Abuche Che, Steve, I see you on there. Hey, I see you on there. Taishani, Buddha boy, what is going on? Hey, I've been waiting for you. Been waiting for a while. Why you been waiting for a while there, Casey? Oh, I don't understand why you've been waiting. Tell me why. What you missing? What do you need? Let's get after it. You know what I mean? Because you guys all know what I'm here to talk about. All right, we left off on Oyekun series. We left off on Oyekun Ika. Right, the last thing we spoke about was Oyekun Osa. So now we are going to dive right in and we are going to finish off this Oyekun series. This Oyekun series took me 3 sessions. And that's a lot of sessions, right? In order to kind of really dissect and kind of give a certain level of advice, right? Obviously, we're not giving the full cake and the full kitten and caboodles. But I want to make sure that there's at least some form of substance that you guys leave with. So here's the other thing of this. A lot of people ask me, like, hey, can you dig a little deeper into this side and this old doing it? And I have that. I have all of that on my website. If you require a more in-depth, understanding of an Odun, or maybe you want your Awofak or Ecofa breakdown, you just gotta let me know. You just gotta let me know. All right, let's see. I saw Casey. Casey, you put something on there, you deleted it. Ooh, multa. Now you owe the chat $1. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But if you guys want to donate, feel free. All right, all right. Hey, Planet, Buddha Boy Abu Che Che. Oh yeah, Crystal, Buddha Boy Abu Che Che. All right. Hey, I see all you guys on there. Much love to each and every one of y'all. So if y'all are ready to jump in, I think it's time. I think it's time. All right. So I will give it about another 20 seconds in case anybody has any questions before I jump in. And we're gonna start talking about Oyeku Ika. All right. Make sure everything is ready, everything looks right. All right. I move quick because I'm impatient, but let's get after it. All right, so Oyeku Ika. Oyeku Ika always says, saw the first update on the Letra de Año, was wondering if there was a new update. Insane. No, we are on a new series. Oh, Casey, yeah. No, Letra de Año, Letra de Año. All right, Letra de Año, that happens once a year. And I did the one for Cuba and then I did one for Miami, right? So those are out there. You can find those listed in my video content. I think it might have been live that I did it, or maybe it was pre-recorded. But if you hit one of those tabs, you should be seeing it out there. But no, perfect. Casey, if you're good, I'm good. All right. All right. Hey, so let's talk about Oyekun Ika. And I got a habit of wanting to look at my mic for whatever reason. I don't know. I feel like I need to talk to the mic and I don't look up. But there you go. All right. Anyway, hey, Oyeku Ika. Hey, Oyeku Ika is what a beautiful Odun, because a lot of people don't understand that the concept of the Odun of Ifa Oyeku Ika is the reason why we take initiates that are going to be priests and priestesses to the river. This is the ceremony of the Iyawo in the river. Right? Oyeku Ika. So what is Oyeku Ika trying to tell you, if this is one of those signs that lives with you, or overall, what is Oyeku Ika trying to say to the world, as a whole? Well, number one, Oyeku Isa begins to warn us about a lot of the concepts of sibling rivalry. Oyekun Ika, it begins to introduce these barriers that we need to understand that need to be ended in our lives, no different than the reason why we take an Iyawo to the river, right? So Oyekun Ika begins to tell us that we need to begin to sacrifice and we need to be able to bear some of those deep wounds that maybe we're not ready to afflict in our own lives because we don't have the moral courage to do it. So those of us who have Oyekun Ika need to begin to understand that our life is going to be riddled with a lot of decisions that we're going to have to make, right? Not and hard decisions at that. Oyekun Ika is one of those signs that this is an odun that if you're constantly working Ifa to be happy, you find your joy in spirituality. You find your joy in Ifa and Ocha, Orisha, Eguns, whatever it is that your spiritual fulfillment meter is taking and what you're bringing in, that's your enjoyment. That's your happy. And that's something that no one can ever take away from you. That's Oyekun Ika. Because you are the ceremony Yawo, the person that is born into this in order to lead this, in order to live this. You're a spiritual person. Oyekun Ika is so spiritual that the person's even a spiritual medium. This is a sign that begins to talk about where the spirituality begins to take on the person's even physical form, the concept of mediumship, right? This is a sign that says that, at a certain point, we have to remember that we need to align ourselves with the spiritual world and be careful with the vices of the physical world. We got to be careful with the greed. We got to be careful with the gossip. We got to be careful, like we talked about, the sibling rivalries and the envy and all that. We got to be careful with all of that. If you have a spouse, you got to be careful that your spouse doesn't go and somebody's now whispering in your spouse's ear, right? Because that is something that is born in Oyekun Ika. The person gets distracted and doesn't necessarily know how to balance life and forgets and neglects their relationships. Oyekun Ika. Oyekun Ika is a sign that talks a lot about the birth of a ceremony that is called Itutu. The ceremony, and this is one of the Oduns of Ifa that talk about Itutu. But you got to understand the concepts of the ceremony, the Iyawo at the river, and what it's supposed to, and what it does. And the Itutu ceremony have a very, very similar alignment. So this is a an Odun that things have to end in order for things to be reborn and be repurposed into a better place in your life. That's Oyekun Ika. Okay. Hey, Buddha boy, Abu Che Che. Yeah, saw the live. Thank you. No, Buddha boy. Glad you saw it there, Casey. Marco, Mole, why, Buddha boy. Good to see you, brother. Okay, so then as we begin to continue to talk about Oyekun Ika, right, we also talk about Oyekun Ika as this is the road of prosperity is tough. Oyekun Ika, is a sign that has to do a bull when it comes to big muscle movements of money, right? Of property, of anything that's gonna take you out of financial or have some financial considerations or matters in your life. There's an ebo that has to be done each time because there's challenges in everything that you do materialistically, money wise, that you have to always be cautious about. Right. So that's Oyekun Ika. Oyekun Ika is also a sign that I always tell people to be careful with the ocean. Respect the ocean, right? If you haven't received Olokun, you should receive Olokun. My father fun Olokun Yemaya and the sign. My father fun Obatala Ogun and Chango and the sign. There's a lot of goodness in Oyekun Ika, but Oyekun Ika has to be ensured that they're looking out for those barriers. Oyeku Ika has an old saying that talks about the evil that one does returns from the hand of God. The evil that you once did in Oyeku Ika, right? This is Ifa warning you. If you came out with this sign as a Bawalao or as a Ikofa Wofaka, the evil that you will do from that moment on, you are now being warned with this. God will ensure that that returns to you. What is that telling you? Oyeku Ika, you better mind your P's and Q's. So Oyeku Ika, right? Oyeku Ika, has to ensure that they treat everyone fairly. Oyeku Ika, this is a sign where you gotta receive Babalua. Yeah, you gotta receive Odudua. You gotta receive Osai. This is the reason why. And there's an bowl where we put a little canoe, in Nifa. You know what I mean, for certain people of this Odun. But if you are a person that falls into this sign and you see the challenges, you know what I mean, and you need help, hit me up or talk to your godparents. Don't live alone. Don't live, alone and unafraid, because Oyekun Ika is a sign where the person separates a lot from their godparents and then finds himself alone and they need guidance. So here's my hopeful hand and my olive branch to each and every one of you. Okay. All right, then we get into Oyekun Otrupon. Oyekun Otrupon. I like Oyekun Otrupon. You know what? I feel like, before I go into Oyekun Otrupon, I got something else to say about Oyekun Ika. Oyeku Ika, I had this conversation with someone, not too long ago about Oyekun Ika, and it just dawned on me, right? And we talked about, Oyekun Ika being an Odun where if we're not careful, right, we find ourselves, where pride being our downfall. We got to be careful with arrogance. We got to be able to hear advice and take advice. Stubbornness came out in Oyekun Ika. We started to have this deep conversation about a person that we knew, or he knew, and that was Oyekun Ika. And we started to take notes because I also had somebody that I knew, Oyekun Ika. And you would be surprised the synergy that we found. Right. So this is an Odun, right? That warns against ignoring the wise counsel, right? Making sure we're listening. We're not just, in one ear out the other. You got to seek the guidance and the mentors of all the spiritual advisors, right? That can help prevent our own self-destruction sometimes. We got to take time to meditate, reflect in this sign, especially before making public decisions or before making lifelong decisions. Right? Social media influence, an influencer. The Oyekun guys that we both knew happen to be influencers, people that like to be on, social media and doing their thing. They were obsessed with fame, right? If you refuse to acknowledge mistakes, and they lost, followers pretty quick. And, again, it goes back to some of those spiritual themes in Oyekun. But just food for thought. All right, now I jump into Oyeku Otrupon because you guys had me thinking about that. I was like, man, I got to talk about them. I think you guys would love to hear that story. So hopefully you did. So then, hey, Buru Boy Bucheche, Miriman. All right, Oyeku, Buru Boy Bucheche, Marco. What's going on, brother? And Frazier, Buru Boy. Hey, so now we jump into Oyeku Otrupon. Oyeku Otrupon. This is an interesting sign, because this is a sign that when it comes up, you automatically know that you got to accept your place in life. You got to understand where your destiny is, where you're going, and you have to accept it. There's no going back. You knocked on the door of Ifa, right? If you were a Babalao, you received your hand of Ifa. If you're not a Babalao, you came out Oyekun Otrupon, or maybe you had a consultation, right, with one of these bad boys, and now you're like, okay, Oyekun Otrupon. If I say, hey, you got to get down to business. If I say you got to accept your life path. If I say your destiny is inevitably needs to be accomplished. That means we got to work hard. We got to work hard at it, right? So what are we trying to say? What are we trying to say? So Oyekun Otrupon is a sign where men had to evolve. The destiny of man was very unclear in the beginning. How were they were going to survive and how were they going to cook and how were they going to eat and how they were going to, agriculture and survival, the whole 9 yards. Think about it. Humans had a long way from bare bones clay, breath of life, alive, and voila, I know everything I need to do. No, that's not true. That's not true. I mentioned that because in Oyekun Otrupon is when man first started to actually cook with fire and saw the concepts of cooking things with fire, right? And I thought that was pretty amazing, right? So Oyekun Otrupon, you were the beginning of man, right? And how man was going to evolve. So what is Ifa saying for you? For anybody who holds this sign? You are the beginning and the evolution of things, and you need to look at it that way. You need to maneuver that way. Those things are important. Right? You came to the world by way of a difficult childbirth. A lot of times when people come out with your Congo Trupon, you could almost already know they already had it hard. They have rough times. They were preemies, or maybe they weren't even wanted. Maybe they're, one of the parents was like, hell no, abort the child. Who knows? It could be 100 different things. Sounds very insensitive, and I don't mean to, but there's difficulty in the sign, right? There's difficulties here, to the point where we got to be careful, not to, push that problem forward. And maybe we become those actors now of aggression, right? Towards maybe a child. All right, we got to be careful. And Oyeku Otrupon, this is a good odun because this is an odun of relationships. This is an odun where things can go either good or bad, right? When we talk about relationships. We gotta always remember that we need to always have our idea of Ifan. Your idea of Orumila has to be put on immediately in order to ensure your safety, to ensure your destiny, to remind you always where you're going and how you're gonna get there. Because in Oyekun Otrupon, this is a sign where people start to steal, right? They steal things from you, spiritual things from you. Ifa is trying to protect you not only from death, but for the influence that you have in this Odun. Because guess what? You, my friend, are gonna be powerful. You, my friend, in this Odun, no one can no one can really stop you once you get moving in your destiny. You're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. That's Oyekun Otrupon. Oyekun Otrupon. The only way that death will teach you or touch you is by way of Ogun's fury. Oyekun Otrupon, no different how man started to first cook with fire on top of an iron grill. An iron. That's how they started to kind of learn this thing, right? Right. So then Ifa says, be careful with Ogun. Understand Ogun. Reinforce Ogun. And be careful with the characteristics of Ogun. So then that means for you, you got to make sure you're not impulsive. You got to make sure you're listening and you're taking advice before you start moving out with things. We already kind of talked about that, right? This is a sign that you got to be careful because you are not allowed, because of how man was able to cook food immediately and learn how to cook. You have to stay in that same rhythm of evolution of cooking. So you shouldn't eat days old food, reheated food from a couple of days ago. You got to be careful with that because your body is already telling you, your body is already telling you that your body needs to be kind of nurtured to a certain point where you're taking care of your stomach and your intestinal regions, right? Because there's stomach problems and intestinal problems in here. This is a sign where you got to make sure that people who are butting into your business, people who are trying to interfere with your inner circle, your intimate relationships, your business, maybe your job, you got to cut that out. They're not worth it. They're not good for you. Cut them out of your life. Stop being so nice. Something to think about. because people are going to use you. People are going to betray you possibly with your own information. So the other point is you got to keep things on a wrap and make sure that you're never, you never tell your secrets where people can use that against you. Minimal. I don't know which part was mystical. It was probably the second sign. But my little boy. All right. All right. So now I want to move in. Well, let's talk about Oyekun. Yeah. Do I want to talk about Oyekun Ofun? I think I'm done with Oyekun. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on to Oyekun Tesa. Oyekun Tesa, which is Oyekun Otura, which talks a lot about transformation, but also transfiguration. And I'm going to explain that. Because I know some of you are probably like, what in the hell is this guy talking about? And I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So when I say transfiguration, right, and transformation, I'm talking about karma. Talking about karma. Because sometimes we have some karmic consequences that we're going to have to, deal with. We did some things, and karma is, you guys know the word that comes after that. All right, so there's a renewal, right, that Oyekun Otura searches for. There are spiritual debts that need to be rectified, whether before they were born and came down here, or now that they're here, we gotta, seal the deal, complete the things that we didn't get to complete the things that we had to do on the ground, and then complete the things that are gonna be successful for our bloodline going forward. Going through that, you got a lot of responsibilities. That's that spiritual debt, that karmic consequences, that renewal, right? So you got to perform acts of accountability. You got to account for your actions, and you got to start to really truly monitor and reflect on who you are. You got to then start to clear out the debt, right? And you got to start to create. In that debt, there's spiritual, but there's also financial debt. You gotta have a disciplined budget, right? You gotta learn to give back to the community. Whether it be aligning yourself, and being a good person and helping someone cross the street or carry their bags or give $1 or a quarter or whatever pennies that you may have to someone that's homeless. You gotta give back. You're going through that. You're being told that you got some things you gotta do on your through. Oyeku Otrupon is someone. Sometimes people in Oyekun Otrupon, you gotta be careful because Eshu and Elewa like to conceal themselves to push you, to test you, to see where you're going and how you're gonna get there. Right? And you gotta be careful with that. That's the reason why in Oyekun Otrupon, you gotta make sure if you have children, you gotta take care of them. Right? Things are not going to get easier because you have kids. Things are not going to get easier because you got married. No, you're still going to face the same challenges, but now you got to face those challenges while being responsible for others. When you're going through that, you have a tough path in front of you. But let me tell you this. If you're able to align yourself with Oyekun Otrupon, you already know Eshu and Elewa, they're always going to be there challenging you. But if you're able to flip the role and be the person that you're supposed to be, the destined purpose, and you fulfill spiritual debt, you came back down here, you're acting like the person you're supposed to be, you're ethical, you're moral, you're a community person, a family man or woman. Eshu and Elewa are there. Their energies are right next to you. You get to start to use them and they get to reinforce your doors and open up your opportunities. And you get to be a better version, not just of yourself, but the opportunities that are going to come knocking at your door, whether it be finance or love or stability, it doesn't matter. You're going to have an open envelope, right? An open checkbook. And that's a beautiful thing in Oyekun Otrupon that you got to always look at. You got to serve Ifa faithfully. You got to serve Ifa faithfully. You're never going to get anywhere. That's just, I'm just telling you, it is what it is there, but you got to do it. And you got to raise your children right. Right? You got to have discipline. You got to show them discipline. And don't criticize other people's children. That's not your job. Don't get angry at the world. Don't be impulsive and don't try to take control or worry about things that you can't control. Because you worry about, oh, well, why this person over here and why can't they do this and why their kids this and why not that. Forget about all that. Is that affecting you and your family? Is that affecting your circle? If it doesn't, stop worrying about it. When you're going through that, I'm trying to help you. You got to stop using them. You got to stop doing it. You got to pray to Orumila every morning. Every morning, go to your Orumila, right? Go to your Godfather. Say, Godfather, I need my Moyumba. I need my Odum prayer. I need to wake up Orumila every morning because I'm Oyekun Otura. And I need to be able to pray to Orumila every morning. I need to understand that so he can teach you. Oyekun Otura. This is a sign where, you have to do it, bosses. You want to avoid the misfortunes. You want to be able to kind of understand where you're going and how you're getting there. That's the biggest thing there. Oyekun Otura. All right. I think for the most part. Oyekun Otura, something that I recommend you do as well. Something that comes with experience. Try to see if you get a red handkerchief. It's an all red handkerchief. And I want you to use that as kind of what you wipe your sweat on and all that good stuff. Always keep this red handkerchief on you, right? And I want you to use it to clean your forehead and stuff, right? And if someone asks you for it, give it to them. Just mark my words on it. I know it sounds weird. Have a red handkerchief, clean your foreheads with it, your sweat, let it get all nasty and stuff. Somebody wants to give it to them. Let them take it. It's a form of an embo. Just do it. And then I would tell you this, Oyekun Otura, the reason why this is such a tough sign is because they know you're up to no good. The spiritual world knows that you have the potential, if not already, to do some things, right? In order to get ahead, right? And so that's the reason why transformation, transfiguration, karma, spiritual debt, that's Oyekun Otura. All right, let me see. If anybody over here asking any question, let me double check. Let me double check. Hey, Buddha boy, some deep, maybe deep is a better word, deep and complex structured after hearing you explain it. Iburu, Ogumbe, Iburu. All right, guys, let's get after it. Oyekun Irete. Because where am I at on time? Where am I at on time, guys? Give it to me. Holy moly. All right, Oyekun Irete. Oyekun Irete is where the person's luck is sometimes lost or taken away. Oyekun Irete is where the person thinks they know much, yet they don't really know much at all. You got to humble yourself in this sign. If you reflect with Oyekun Irete, right, this is a sign that says, don't abuse your health and don't abuse your strength. As we get older, I would tell you from personally, I feel like I get older, right? And I still feel like I can still work out and go to the gym and do things that I was doing when I was in my 20s. I can't do that, right? But yet my mind, I think I could. So I have to always convince myself, hey, don't do that. Work smarter, right? Stretch and maybe work a little bit towards things. You're not going to do the same thing you did when you were younger. And you can't abuse your strength and you can't abuse your health. So if you're a smoker, if you're a drinker, you got to be careful with those things. And Oyekun Birete, this is a sign where we can't necessarily, we gotta fix ourselves because there is a strong ebo in this sign that tells us that if our luck was to go away or our health was to go away or illness was to infiltrate our human body, we're gonna have to go through Olokun or Vifa. We're gonna have to look at Yemaya or Ochun, and we're gonna have to work both angles in order to resolve your problem. Because in your Odun, you're not supposed to receive Babaluaye. Babaluaye is typically something that we have as an emergency break in case of an emergency card for health problems that are severe, disease that's severe. right? So then we got to go into the other big dog, right? Olokun Leifa. And while we're doing that, we got to invoke Yemaya. And while we're going through that, we got to start to, so we have to analyze things. So your job is to ensure not to make our job too hard. In order to save yourself, you got to do us the favor. So one hand washes the other. We need some teamwork here. Right. So in particular, I worry about Oyekun Irete, Oyekun Berete. I really worry about the legs. I worry about um the arthritis, right, of the legs. I worry about the impotence, right? I worry about leukemia, right? I worry about those things. But more importantly, that I worry about is your attention to the ego. And Oyekun Berete, right? This is a sign that if you take care of the eguns, you'd be surprised how far you can go. Oyekun Irete is telling you already. You know what I mean? A person lives fooling the world with lies because they tell it to themselves. Oyekun Irete is a sign of don't be an illusionist. Don't look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself lies to make yourself feel better. If your life is not moving in a certain manner, you need to start living in reality. You got to start taking care of yourself. You got to start being realistic that maybe budgets need to be shrunk. Maybe we need to stop spending money on X, Y, and Z. Maybe we need to start pushing forward and being a little bit more responsible. Oye, Cumbirete is trying to say something to you. This is where the world met Ode for the first time. Because Ode had to come forward. Ode is almost, you can say, the father of Ochosi, right? Ode had to come into this world in order to ensure that he can help the person forward. So guess what? You don't receive Babalua yet, but guess what you are receiving? Ode. You go see a Babala and you receive Ode. You have to do it. Because Ode is the one that's going to get you out of the problems you're going to put yourself in legally. That's who Ode is. Ode is something that is going to get you out of the problems that you are going to put yourself in. Of course, that's going to be with the help of a local. Of course, that's going to be with the help of the ego. You got to be careful. Be careful with hernias, right? Make sure that, whoever you marry, your cumberete, and whoever you're going to share your life with, that's your life partner. You treat them well. You honor them because they're the ones that are going to bring you the luck and the prosperity, right? Try not to dominate with a violent temper. Your violent temper will be the end of you. Oye, cumberete. Oye, cumberete. What can I tell you about Oyekun Irete? Other than listen, you gotta do it bosses with Baba Luaye, but you don't receive Baba Luaye. You gotta receive Ode and you gotta receive Oloku. You know what I mean? You gotta receive those two deities regardless. There you go. Oyekun Birete. Oyekun Birete is funny. The more and more I think about it, I make sure I ain't got nobody on chat. Everybody's good on chat? Good. Oyekun Birete, as I begin to think about it, the reason why Oyekun Berete begins to have such a hard sign is because we begin to kind of see the betrayal, the manipulation, some of the family conflicts, right? This is an Odun that tells us, hey, we got to perform offerings, right, to strengthen the family bonds, right? This is a sign that talks a lot about that we gotta host family dinners, right? We gotta bring people together in order for us to benefit, right? To benefit from those events. Um, we got to resolve our past problems. You know what I mean? A lot of our problems is our we hold all this weight upon us and we can't. We got to let go of it and let bygones be bygones or cut people out and you know what I mean? We got to restore harmony in our own life. But that's all you're going with it. All right, now we're gonna go into Oyekun Oche and make sure I ain't got nobody on the chat. Uh-oh, open up something I shouldn't open. All right, let's go. Oyekun Oshe. Oyekun Oshe talks a lot about, right? You notice that in Oyekun series, if you look behind me in the pictures and stuff like that, I'm talking, you see a lot of pictures of skulls and trees and darkness. All right, I was talking about Itutu. I be talking about death a lot. Talk about a lot of different things. The moon, the nighttime, right? There's a lot of things in the Oyekun series of things. Now we find ourselves in Oyekun Oshe. And what can I say about Oyekun Oshe? But self-control is important. Wisdom is another one. Respecting your elders is going to be almost number one. This is an old doom that cautions us to be careful about what we say and how we say it. We got to practice mindfulness, deep breathing. We got to learn how to kind of meditate, not allow ourselves and our blood to boil so quickly, right? We got to reflect, right? Have a journal, take some notes, learn to kind of capture the moments and be better and learn from mistakes, or maybe learn how to do things better so you could be even more successful later on. Obatala has to be leaned on in this Odu. So let's talk about it. Oyekun Oche. Oyekun Oche represents all our dead ancestors, our fallen friends, and our fallen, um, our friends and family. This is an Odun that we utilize also in Otutu rites, Itutu rites. This is also one of the ones that says, hey, we got to be careful not to put too many flowers around the house. This is not a funeral parlor. And with that, don't go to the funerals. Don't go to the hospitals. If you have to, speak to your elders on how to best maneuver towards that. Because there's things you got to do to make sure you keep yourself safe and cleansed. In this Odun particularly, we understand that Olofin asked Orumila to visit the land, right, where there were no living beings. It was a place of rest, right, for the dead kings of Ileife. And what that story was trying to bring to an understanding was that we will always need to tie in, because we will always be tied in to the land of the Egun. This is an Odun that we talk a lot about the burial clothings, and this is the reason why we talk about the ancestral Eguns need to be fed. We talk a lot about where there's marital problems that are caused by our instability in relationships. We talk a lot about where Orumila, you know, gave, or Orumila, and some of the patakis, right? Different variations of these patakis. Here's where Yemaya tossed the obelis. Orumila caught her and cursed her. Right? There's patakis about that. Right? There's a reason why in this particular sign that someone, we got to be very careful that of the pregnancies in the sign, whether it's you or the female, or you have a spouse or a girlfriend or whoever that's pregnant, right? And that's your child, you got to do it bosses and to ensure proper delivery, right? And nothing goes, wrong with the pregnancy. The in-laws and your significant others, families, always keep that relationship sacred. Always keep that relationship on the up and up. Don't take any risk, because that is something that can be very sensitive in this Odlu. Right? You need to do it both in order to attract the right people in your lives, because a lot of times you get the wrong friends that cause you more problems, and you got to cut them out, and you're trying to figure out like, damn, I'm best off not even having friends. All right, bro, boy. Always see what Eshu and Olokun want from you. Eshu and Olokun are cornerstone in this Odun, just like they are in a lot of the Oyekun series of Oduns, right? Understand? Beautiful sign that has some challenges nonetheless. Little boy. Hey, Miramar, alert and oriented. Oh. All right, I like it. I like it. I like it. All right, Oyekun Ofun, guys, last one. Last one, and we are done. And then we're gonna start moving into Iwuri. Oyekun Ofun. All right, Oyekun Ofun. Quick, down, and dirty. Start having your questions ready so we can start going through the chat. And then we're gonna kill this live and I'm gonna go to bed. Oyekun Ofun. Oyekun Ofun is all about overcoming envy, negativity, spiritual attacks, brujeria. Oyekun Ofun. What a sign that has some problems that we gotta reinforce quickly. But allow see this sign for people in Eco Fa or Fakan, guess what we gotta do? We gotta start putting on the spiritual armor. We gotta start consecrating other orishas and divinities for you. We gotta start getting you prepared for war. Right? This is an order that warns about performing spiritual practice, protections like cleansing baths, wearing protective charms, inchil signs. Look, let me show y'all. See this? This is an inchil sign. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. Inchil sign. I got other ones here. Inchil signs. Right? Inchil sign. You need all types of one, all types of help. Right? Where you going from? You got to reinforce not only yourself spiritually, but you also got to, reinforce yourself through your self esteem, right? You got to have positive affirmation in your life. You have to make sure that you can deflect negativity from your life. Oyekun Ofun is a sign that we begin to army up so well that you're going to not only be so prosperous in the future, not only are you going to be able to recapitalize love, family, stability, but we're going to take good care of you. And you're never going to have to worry about this nonsense ever again. It's sad that you had to go through it, but those are things that we have to do. Oyekun Ofun is one of these signs that, when you start to kind of put it together, this is where Chango gave control of his kingdoms to Orunmila. And the reason why he did that was because he understood that his force, his might, his justice wasn't working, and he needed to let in wisdom. He needed to understand the deeper secrets on how to better save his kingdom. So Chango gave his kingdom to Orunmila. Think about that for a little bit. Right? In this sign, we need to always recognize that Oya is going to be pivotal in this sign. This is the birth of an issue that's called Arufa, the son of Iku and Inle. Okay, this is an Odung that if there was an issue that I want you to consecrate for your Odung is this one. I like for people to consecrate their issues for their Odungs. People think I'm crazy because they say, hey, he's our Faka or this is equal Fa. Why are we consecrating an issue for this, that, and the other? And I'm like, why not? Why not? Right? But in this particular Odun Oyekun Ofun, consecrate issue Arofa. Get your issue, call it good, and let's move out. In this sign, not only are you going to receive the Olokums, but I need you to receive the Mbeis. Why? Because the Mbeis is what's going to bring you the luck, the health, and the money that you're going to need. In this sign, we don't eat lamb. Don't eat lamb. In this sign, don't mount horses. Don't run or go through the woods or do anything crazy. Right? That has to do with the woods. Don't be doing anything adventurous. Don't be going out hunting. There's danger there. This is a sign where you gotta clean yourself, and you gotta consecrate. If you have ocha, right, and you don't have oya, get oya, but you need oya zeruke. You need to clean yourself with oya's horsetail, right? You have to dress more in white so that you can receive those blessings that are expected for you, that you're needed. You gotta always keep your mind clear. Mafarafung obatala in your life. Align yourself with obatala. There's a lot of negative spirits that are going to bother you. So therefore, you need to lock yourself down and receive the powers in that spiritual armor to hold you down. Right? You will hear of a death of people around you. And you're going to always wonder, wow, how are people just dropping like flies? You got to prepare yourself not to be used by others. People will be ungrateful to you, and you got to be prepared for that. You can't look corpses in the eyes when you go to funeral homes or whatnot. Because if they open their eyes, they look back, Iku got you. Just food for thought. All right. I'm gonna leave you guys with that. I'm gonna leave you guys with that. All right. Mindfulness, right? Mindfulness. I guess if you guys ain't got no questions, right? I will honestly leave it with just a couple of things, right? So one, mindfulness practices, right? Oyekun Mei is one of those signs where you need to kind of practice meditation, yoga, mindfulness, aligns with patience, wisdom, humility, emotional intelligence, right? Learning to kind of control our impulses, especially emotional charged situations that might cause you to maybe want to kill somebody, you got to look at those lessons, right? Strong social bonds are important. Participating in collective rituals mirrors the Odun's advices, of all the Oyekun series. Right. So hopefully this was informational for you. Hopefully you've captured all three parts, and that is the Oyekun series for you. Incredible hearing Oyekun Ofun and knowing someone who was highly spiritual and seeing the connection the sign has with Oya. Oye, Buru boy, I met him, man. Buru boy. A lot of connections, right? Every Odun has Orishas that guide with it. Every Odun has herbs that walk with it. Every Odun has an issue that needs to maneuver. Every Odun has the pros and the cons, right? Some might be a little bit more, aggressive in nature, but aggressive means that they're aggressive with the bad and aggressive with the good. But I appreciate you sharing that. All right, Buddha boy. Buddha boy. All right, guys, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. And as always, you guys are my heroes, and I appreciate you. Give me the like, give me the share, give me the subscribe. Right. And as always, I do these videos for you, not because I want to, but because there you go. What other options do I have? And for anybody who wants to give me the like, the share, the subscribe, the hit the little, hey, I got a question, button and donate, whatever you want to do. You just gotta let me know. But at the end of the day, always remember you guys have my email addresses. You always got all my information in the description tab. But with that said, Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche. Oh, wait a minute. I got a couple questions. Iburu boy. All right, good. Iburu boy. Hey, Rising Phoenix, Iburu boy. Iburu boy, you're welcome. Woody coming up next time. All right, Buddha boy. Yes, it is. Woody is coming.